Hello, hello. It is Tuesday. It's noon. I'm really excited to be chatting today with Na'Diah Smith. I had the pleasure of meeting her. Oh, she's already here. Awesome. Um, we did a panel discussion together. Here we are. We're going to all about it in just a second. So punctual. I love it. Hopefully this will work. Awesome. There you are. Hello.
Hello.
It's so good to see you.
You too.
So, where are you in the world right now?
I am in Clinton, Mississippi with the family again. Well, it's just the four of us. So for Christmas. So small Christmas.
Oh, that's
Getting
nice.
ready. Yeah.
So when we met in October, you were also traveling. Where were you?
Mm.
You've been
I
able to
think I
get
was
around a little bit.
Yeah, I was here in October. So I'm here between here and Dallas. So those are the only two places
Oh,
that
okay.
I've been since the quarantine. So back with family again for the holiday, and then I'll head back to DFW.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's so nice. I've been having lots of calls in the last 2 days where people tell me about not seeing their family. So I'm just so glad that you get to see yours. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. My parents are quarantined, and my brother is a student professor, so he gets the test every week. He gets rapid tests every week, so it's cool. Like we're all safe and we're all tested. So
That's so great.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that will make for a really nice holiday, even though it's probably still different than normal.
Yeah, and I'm adjusting, so that's been a part of the day. Like you're adjusting, doing as much shopping because you don't out and about. So everything's all about Amazon, but we're making it work. So
Right, totally. And I saw on Instagram that it was just your birthday. So
it
happy
was.
belated.
Thank you.
My birthday is right after Christmas. When you were growing up, did you get like happy birthday, P.S. Merry Christmas gifts? Did you get any of that?
No, my parents always separate. My family did too. So it wasn't until I was older and friends would always want to combine like a pre-holiday birthday celebration. But when I was younger, no, it was totally separate.
Yeah,
So we
were
did
you like,
birthday.
hell no, it's two different holidays.
This is my celebration. This is my like this is my day. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I hope you had a nice one. I would love for you to do just like a quick introduction and tell, I know who you are. I really enjoyed meeting
Mhm.
you at that panel discussion with General Assembly in October, and but just was really inspired by your story and would love for you to share it.
Yeah, well, I am a breast cancer survivor. So at the age of 33, I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ. So stage 0, early stage breast cancer. And we talked about in our panel, it was a bit of a surprise for me because I had no family history. Even after taking the BRCA for the, testing for the 1 and 2 mutation, nothing was found. And I lived a very healthy lifestyle. You see now, like I'm prepared to go run. It's getting up to 66, 67 degrees today. So I'm going to enjoy it in just a few minutes and get at least maybe 3 miles in. But I lived a healthy lifestyle. So I did a lot of those things that were proactive, that were considered to be proactive to reduce your risk for breast cancer, and I was still diagnosed. So, after processing everything and all the treatment options and deciding what was best for me, further along the journey, I realized like what about the young survivors like me? Like I didn't see any young patients when I went from doctor's office to doctor's office. I was assumed to be a caretaker
Yeah.
because I looked so healthy. So I didn't know where to reach out and where to get the support. So after, not really wanting to share the story, you get so tired of talking about cancer. And then it's like, it was heavy on me. It's like there was something for me to do. And that was just really being the face. So we needed representation for young survivors, for young women of color that are survivors. So there are disparities out there that are talked about all over that I didn't even know about until after my diagnosis. So as I kind of make that shift from survivor to just getting along and treatment was over. So now what? I've gone through all of this. So how can I give back, to the community, and how can I make sure that that other young survivors don't feel like me? They don't feel isolated and there's nowhere for them to go for support.
Right. It's so awesome that you're doing that. I think it's really, it can be difficult to keep living in that moment and to keep
Mm-hmm.
talking about the experience. But I think that you're right. If we're ever going to work towards overcoming those disparities based on race, it's really, really important for women like you to share your story and to educate other women and say, know your body and all of these things that I think we talked about in depth on the panel discussion, because you're your own advocate, and
Right.
it's really difficult to find the things that you need. And the more women who are out there talking about what they needed and where to find it, the easier it is for women in the future.
And it's okay. We talked about it where I went for several mammograms before I was diagnosed. I found my own lump and I was told, let's come back. You're healthy, you're perfectly fine. We took labs and all levels, were great. But I still had to advocate because knowing my body, like, no, something is really off. I wasn't sick. I was diagnosed, 6 days after running a personal best and a half marathon, but I knew there still wasn't something, something just wasn't right. So
Right.
we see the campaigns where, you see someone that's in, that may be in care, or, they're balding because of chemo, or they look very ill. That wasn't the case for me. And that wasn't the case for a lot of young survivors that I've met since my diagnosis. So we really need to, let everyone know that it doesn't discriminate. This
Right.
disease doesn't discriminate. So it's very important that you do the self checks, that, you do some of the screenings and understand your family history. So for you, you knew your family history, and there's
Right.
others that don't really understand. So how do we have those difficult conversations with family members to make sure that we're aware of our exposure, our potential exposure to the
Yeah.
disease, so we can get the proper preventative care?
Yeah, I think it's so important, right? There's lots of families that don't talk about their health and don't talk about their medical history. Or if it's a grandparent, people who are our grandparents' age, they didn't talk about their health. And you might have known like grandma or grandpa was sick or something, but you didn't know what it was and no one told you. And I think that is one of the most important things in it, and maybe something that we don't talk enough about, is how to have those difficult conversations with your parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles and say, hey, I know you were sick like in the 80s. What was that? And can you
Mm-hmm.
tell me about it? Because it's difficult, if you go in and you don't have a hereditary mutation, but you still, like just being empowered with the knowledge and tools about your own family and your risk is so important. And it gets doctors to take you seriously.
Yeah, and it exposes you to other services. We talked a bit on the last panel. I was on the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium. I joined that, and there were a lot of different highlight discussions about genetic counseling. So if you don't understand your family history, you're not seeking those services. And there's a large number of different markers that can be tested aside from BRCA1 and 2.
Right.
But you only hear BRCA1 and 2, and then you really don't, seek those services if you don't understand your family history. So there's things that we can learn about ourselves, about our future children. So how do I, what do I do for my children? How do I protect them? What should I look for? What screening should take place, for them? And those were some of the things that I started to think about as being diagnosed with a young survivor without having children. I was outside of that box of, being a grandparent or, 40 or above, where I've had that experience. So I had to consider some different things for my quality of life. And it also impacted the treatment plan that I chose.
Right. Yeah. And I think the quality of life component is also something we don't talk enough about. And that's while you're in treatment, and of course, after treatment, when you are trying to get back to feeling like yourself. And to your point, not feeling isolated and maybe struggling through that and figuring out what you need to do to feel as much like yourself again as possible.
And being okay with that, because there's a bit of survivor's guilt that comes along with it. So when you're young and you appear to be healthy, you don't want to go to a support group, whining about, well, I want to have kids, so,
Yeah.
but it's okay to feel that way. And especially, within a certain age group, you should consider those things. And those are conversations that your medical provider should be having with you as well when you start to map out your treatment plan. So that standard of care should be shifted a little bit, given the fact that the age of onset is getting lower and lower.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what is so important about these online communities. And I know that you're really active with the rest of us. And I think it is, that's how we learn that we can ask for those things, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that guilt is real. I had a preventative mastectomy and I really felt completely disempowered to say I was struggling with anything because I chose it. I was like, well, you picked this, girlfriend, so shut up. and just figure it out. And I think that so many of us do that in different ways, whether it's you didn't have chemo and didn't lose your hair, so you don't feel comfortable going to a support group because you don't want to make people feel bad that you still have, there's all of these things that play into that. And I
But
think,
you deserve your own support group. Like, I know
right.
that you know Erica Stalling, so I
Yeah.
followed her and I've seen her speak, in a
Yeah.
couple of different. So, but you deserve your own support group. Like, you made that choice because that was what was best for you, and that was what was best for your future. So that should be considered. And so, what is a treatment plan, or what is a survival plan? Because at that moment, you're officially a survivor. So what is a survivor plan for you as a
Right.
pre-vivor? Like, you should have access to those, to resources and, some type of community as well.
Yeah. And I think, I feel so lucky that I'm doing this right now in this era where we can have this conversation and I can find other women online and I can say, hey, what did you do to feel better? And I don't know if this has been your experience, but mine has been like the most beautiful and open conversations with women, whether it's about like children or sex or relationships or, just getting dressed. Like how do you feel like yourself, and how open we are sharing with one another, like maybe not live or whatever, but I think, if I asked you, like, what exercises do you do that help you, that don't hurt you, that don't make you feel uncomfortable, like we could have a really honest, open conversation where you would share with me details about how your body felt. And I don't know that that's true in lots of other spaces. And I think I just feel really lucky to be here and to know other women who will do that for each other.
Yeah, like it was such a relief, when I found the rest of us, when I found Tiger Lily, and when I was invited for the panel discussion, I was like, wow, people just want to talk about it, no scripts, just let's just talk about it, whatever comes up, because what's important to me is important to someone else out there, and somebody else has that question and they feel like, oh, where I can't answer it, and accepting the fact that how I feel today changes. And I have a community that's accepting to that I may feel great today and I'm going to go run 3 miles, and tomorrow I may not want to look at in the mirror because I am over it,
Right.
so, and that changes. And there's so many safe places that I didn't know about, like,
Yeah.
this is a safe place. Whoever can see it, can reach out to one of us and say, okay, well, how do I get plugged in? But if we don't take the first step and just saying, you know what, I'm going to put it all out there, and hoping that it helps somebody. So it's about getting beyond yourself. You have to get to that point where I'm okay, this is a part of my journey. Now how do I serve? Switching to that that servant mindset of how do I serve, serve others, and in doing that, it's rewarding for me.
Oh, totally. I think it's like the constant need to figure out what is a way to make this positive, and making an experience that's so terrible positive means giving back, because the giving back and making it better and making other people not feel alone in their experience does make us feel better that we had to go through something. And people poo-poo social media all the time, but I think it's such an important vehicle for those of us in communities like this, that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if it's in person. It's really more about exactly what you just said. Like, how do I give back? How do I reach people? How do I make people feel connected and understood?
And how can I do that being my genuine self?
Yeah.
So that was when I found for the rest of us and for Tiger Lily, it was okay to be angry. It was okay to be a Black woman with breast cancer, and it was totally fine. And we had tons of allies that were supporting me, like, nope, your feelings are valid and work needs to be done.
Yeah.
So just feeling accepted and my feelings were honored, I was very appreciative of finding those communities that allowed that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know that we talked a few weeks ago on the phone about the event series that I'm doing with Erica and with Tiffany Daiba, where people are kind of sharing stories, and it's usually whenever we do the event, there's a topic. And I feel like, and I'm totally blanking now, had you wanted to talk about fitness and exercise? Is that what we talked about?
We talked about we talked about fitness and exercise. We talked about dating. We talked a little about vaginas, how vaginas matter.
Right.
After
I like vaginas matter.
Yeah, vaginas matter. But yeah, we talked about fitness because that was my struggle. I was very athletic, but I felt like I needed to get back to that point immediately. And I
Right.
knew that, I had to accept that, I couldn't get there. That there were different things that I had to do to work on my mobility, my flexibility. Yoga helped me transition into being more comfortable with my own strength before I
Mhm.
added additional weight. So it was just a journey, but in my mind, it's like I wasn't happy. I wasn't going to be happy until I made it back to that personal best at the marathon, 6 days before my diagnosis, but I wasn't being realistic,
Right.
with myself. And I know that there's plenty of others you may see me or others that are, they're back into that athletic lifestyle, but it takes time. Like it didn't happen, like
Yeah.
overnight. Like it took plenty of nights of me waking up and getting dressed and saying, nope, I can't do this, or a few minutes in, you feel something kind of pop or twitch or whatever, your body does, and you freak out, and
Yeah.
that was the reality of it. So how do you transition back into the active lifestyle, but give yourself a little bit of grace? So
Yeah, totally. Because it's not like someone's holding your hand and saying, this is exactly how you move now and what's going to
mhm.
feel good or what's not going to feel good. It's a little bit of like a guessing game and trusting your body. And that the trusting your body part of survivorship, I think, is really difficult.
Yeah, and when do you seek physical therapy? Because
Mhm.
those resources should be provided, to survivors. We've had tons of surgeries. So when do physicians say, maybe you should seek physical therapy? If your insurance covers it, why not? And then there's clinics such as Moncliff,
Mhm.
in the DFW area. They offer those services free.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to, if you haven't been involved in that kind of active lifestyle, and then maybe you do need some support, to
Yeah.
get there.
Right. I asked my plastic surgeon because I injured myself a few years ago. I think it was like 2017. I was shoveling snow and I like tore my chest muscle and my implant looked like a hernia almost. Like when I would move, it would like squish out. And so I
Hmm.
had to have a revision surgery. And I said to this surgeon, can you give me a prescription for physical therapy? Because clearly I'm not moving in a way that's safe for me. And he's like, well, why do you think you need that? And I was like, why would you think I don't?
Yeah,
Like,
like I have this thing under my pectoral muscle that's not supposed to be,
yeah,
not supposed to be there. So yeah.
yeah. And it made me feel so stupid to ask. And like, it's crazy. I think, that experience, we have this free corrective exercise program on the website to help people regain strength and mobility because I've
Hmm.
spoken to so many women who it either wasn't offered, their insurance didn't cover it, or they just didn't have time, any more time off of work or childcare or whatever the obstacle was for getting there. And I was like, this is a thing that should be free and available to anyone who's had this kind of experience. Like, you should be empowered with the knowledge about like how to stand up straight again and how to move and how to put a bag on and how to
Hmm.
modify some basic things that you maybe used to do, because
Yeah.
exercise, as you know, like just makes you feel better.
Yeah, like the health aspects, and the fact that there's certain things you don't have to move. When we talk about yoga, there's static poses,
Yeah.
that help you. So when you say exercise, you immediately think, let's go run on the treadmill, and that may not be it. You may have an intensive stretch session for 30 minutes, but that helps your circulation, which ultimately helps, release your muscles. It helps lubricate your muscles. So there's things that you can do that doesn't involve high intensity,
Yeah.
activities. So
Well, awesome. I'm so psyched to talk to you. Are there ways that I know we're going to link to For the Breast of Us? We'll link to Pretty Fit Survivor. Are there other places that people can find you or reach out in the
um
meantime?
Tiger Lily. So I am an angel advocate for Tiger Lily. So that's definitely another place where you can reach me. And my email, of course, is prettyfitsurvivor@gmail.com. And there's some more things to come. So I'll be launching, but all of them will, of course, be branded with prettyfitsurvivor.com. And you can reach those by going to the bio link, my link tree in my Instagram page.
Oh, awesome. And let's catch up soon, maybe after the holidays, about doing one of the Breast is History events, because I think you have a lot of things to talk about, and we do need to figure out, is there a way to tie in dating, vaginas, and fitness into one story?
Like all together, yes. But when it comes to this, I'm never off. So there are holidays, but I'm never off when it comes to surviving and thriving. I'm off from the corporate gig, but
Right.
I'm always checking Pretty Fit Survivor. Like it's a thing. 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, somebody, I forgot to respond to somebody. So yeah, feel
Yeah.
free to reach out anytime.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all the good work and for the time today, and have an awesome run.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's good to
Yeah,
see you again.
you too. Let's talk soon.
All righty.
All right. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.